Dude, this place, like, literally messed me up.
I I stopped working back in August. I still have like nightly reoccurring nightmares of just like you have to close the standalone, but then Readling from My Singing Monsters is there. Like, dude, I have nightmares. I need I need to do something else. Anyway, so here's some stories. So, there was this one night. It was actually the last night this one manager was working, and I was actually given his position shortly after. Uh, I was changing the cheese, and I guess I didn't put the nozzle on correctly. So, I vividly remember the camera footage of just my sheer panic of watching the cheese just like drizzle out, and I turn and I look at the manager and I'm like, help me. And he's like, what? Oh. He freaks out and he starts helping. And then literally like the next night, the exact same thing happens to this other guy who was working there. I had already clocked out and I went to go stand by them while I was waiting for my Uber, and I heard this giant splat sound, and the guy's name was Mac, so we call it the mac and cheese incident. There was just cheese; it just flooded the entire concession stand. Like this poor guy had to clean it up. Oh my gosh. Let's see. I have a written thing here. Let's see. So I had this one customer come up to me and he put some things on the counter and he asked me which theater his movie was going to be in, and I asked him, I said, hey, do you have your ticket? And he goes up and he goes, yes, I do. And he hands me a receipt for the restaurant across the street. And I say, sir, this is a receipt for another place. And he goes, oh. And he hands me another one, and it's a receipt for a hardware store. So I tell him, sir, this is for a hardware store. And his wife is on the other side of the candy shelf, and she yells at him. And she says, read them first to him. So I get done with his order, and I hand him the new receipt. And he reads it, and he goes, oh, this says movie theater. And I'm like, yeah, I just gave you that. So I ask him, I say, do you know what you're going to see? And he says, he tells me, and I find the auditorium from the little like register screen. He's in auditorium 9, and I say, what do you call it? I thought this whole like scenario was over, and I get a couple more people and whatnot, and then he comes back, and he says the theater isn't playing the movie. So I say, yes, sir, that's because your movie doesn't start for another hour. and and he says, oh, well, the screen doesn't even say the movie is playing. And I go, yeah, that is because the movie hasn't started yet. And, and he goes, well, I need someone who can fix that. And he just left after that. Oh my gosh. And then I have this other story. I don't think I was working that day. It may have happened before I worked, but there was. Okay, so we would take the nozzles off of the soda machines at the end of the night, just so we could like let the stuff sit in the soap and stuff. And this one guy, he really wanted a refill, but the stand was closed. So he reaches over with his cup, and the soda, it sprays everywhere. And I'm sure he's confused by the soda spraying out. So he jumps the counter to get his refill. He refills it and then he leaves. And this was all caught on the camera. I don't think he was ever caught, but I just thought it was so funny. Okay. Last little story here. So I had this habit where when I was working as the concessionist, I would touch the top of my hat when I got nervous. I get very nervous when I talk to people. And I did it so much that I started doing it like when I would talk to waiters at restaurant, but I wasn't wearing a hat, so I would just reach up and grab that nothing. And then later I became management and I would talk to customers and reach for my invisible hat. And yeah, that was it felt awkward. Anyway, thank you for listening. Bye.